So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the Gemini. So the Gemini that I was in love with. So I'm gonna kind of wrap this up really quickly because there's a lot of things that I could say. So uh passed by her when I was 14 years old, heading to school for some sort of after school program, just trying to see what kind of extracurriculars I could get into. Physically passed by her, right? I was going to school, she was coming down to the neighborhood, I was going up, same sidewalk, passed by her. One of the most, at the time for me, I was 14, she was always 1 or 2 years younger than me. So no, excuse me, she was always 2 to 3 years younger than me, so she was like 12 at the time. One of the most beautiful people that I've ever seen in my entire life at the time. Gorgeous. Right, me being a 14-year-old, and thought that I'd never get an opportunity to speak to her again. One of my friends at the time introduced me to somebody else, and me and that other person and all three of us started hanging out, kicking it, chilling. And I started to get closer with those people, right? Started getting more acquainted with them, started to trust them more. And the third person, like I said, that my friend introduced me to, he introduced me to his cousin. And I'm not going to say any of their names or any of that stuff, right? You know, no personal information, of course not. But when I went ahead and I actually spoke to him, it was so funny because it turned out that his cousin's niece was actually of the same chick that I had actually thought was very beautiful and that I had actually crossed paths with. And it was like a few seconds had gone by where the two of us didn't say anything. I was just staring. I thought this Gemini was one of the most beautiful women that I've ever seen in my entire life. Still is too. One of the most beautiful women that I've ever seen in my entire life. Just, be gorgeous, nice, long, flowing hair, beautiful face, nice skin tone, not a pimple in sight. Everything just plickety clack. Anyway, at the time, she still looked good still to this day. Plickety clack, plickety clack, plickety clack. Anyway, Anyway, remember, I grew up with this Gemini, literally. So this was back in 2005 when I was 14. When I was 14, this was 2005. I graduated high school in 2009, June 25th, 2009. I'll never forget that day because it was the same day that Michael Jackson was on the news, and you know why. Same day, broke my heart. Anyway, hung out with these people from 2005 to 2013. At the time, we're very in love with this Gemini, but whenever it is, and I felt like this Gemini was into me too. It was a few times me and this Gemini was by ourselves. We even had an opportunity to kiss. The problem is that every time me and a Gemini would actually end up getting close, the Gemini's mom, who happens to also be a Gemini, would basically bust into the room, kick the door open. Hey, what's going on in here? Okay. And from that point on, it wasn't the first time that the mama Gemini did that. It was a few times, because the reasoning that the mama Gemini didn't want me to hang out in that way with the daughter Gemini was basically false, because the lie is, oh, well, you have a reputation or whatever the case may be. Now, personally, I don't know where this reputation comes from. That's why it is I say that a lot of these people sitting up on the internet stupid. All these people so upset over false just narratives, and they don't even know what they're talking about. And I can show and prove they don't even know what they're talking about. Just ridiculous. Anyway, let me relax. Anyway, because the narratives just go on and on and on, and it gets dumber and dumber every time. But anyway, so this would essentially be the end of me and that Gemini, whatever connection we could have had, because that Gemini was bi. And I would literally see how much game, so to speak, that Gemini would have. Not smooth with it by any means, but did essentially get the job done. 12, 13-year-old, as you know, it's through the years. Because remember, I hung out with them from 2005 to 2013. So 8 years, right? This Gemini was always like 2 to 3 years younger than me, like I said before. So this Gemini is younger than me, by 2 to 3 years. But this Gemini acted like they were 13 going on 30, if you catch my drift, right? So now all of my friends at the time were older than me, right? The youngest one that was older than me was like 19, you know what I'm saying? 19, 20, right? But I was hanging out with all older folks. And me and as far as the relationship between myself and the Gemini, like I said, whatever kind of connection me and the Gemini could have had was broken, because the mama Gemini, which was the cousin's brother, which was the cousin's sister, that I told you that one of my friends introduced me to his cousin, that cousin's sister was the mother of the Gemini that I liked, which means that my friend, which was the Gemini's uncle, so by blood, Gemini's uncle by blood. Gemini, the uncle was, i.e. my friend, was a Taurus. This is why it is that I said that I know about Sagittarius, right? The friend that introduced me to his cousin in the first place was a Sagittarius. The uncle was a Taurus. The mom was a Gemini. The woman that I liked was a Gemini herself. So, you know what I'm saying? So we're both minors, all that legal stuff. So in essence, right? So in essence, I grew up around all of these zodiac signs. This is why it is I tell y'all that, the stuff that I be saying, that this doesn't come from like anything where I don't know what I'm talking about. It comes from studying. It comes from literally doing the research to it, and also seeing how it actually plays out in real time, right? None of that fable stuff where I'm just lying to you about, type of stuff. So the Gemini started to be somebody else. I started to be somebody else. Now in high school, it was very difficult for me to communicate with a lot of people, even though I had a lot of those friends and stuff like this, and I was kind of popular. People still kind of saw me as like the sci-fi student, like the sci-fi, not really fitting in with any group, hardcore, so to speak. But my name gets around because I kind of get along with everybody, type of thing, and not necessarily knowing my style, but still figuring out, not really considered being cool, right? Obviously. But knew the cool kids and knew them well. Grew up with them, grew up with a lot of them for years, knew them because they family members. I'm trying not to make this thing long, but it's probably going to end up being long. I've already done this video. I'm trying not. But anyway, let me just tell the story. So the Gemini that I was in love with, she basically started bringing home a lot of other she's, right? Because the Gemini was bi, kicking it, talking, all this type of stuff, and I'm seeing the other girls come in and out of the Gemini's life. I'm looking at this like fine ones at my age, right? I'm like 15, 16, they're like 14, 15, somewhere around there. And I'm looking at the type of baddies that the Gemini got going on. I'm like, wow, okay. Maui, wowie, right? I'm looking at it like, ooh, wee. Hot pie, right? Hot pie. Gemini, boom. In the room, boom. Next thing you know, a few days later, ain't even talking to him. I'm asking the Gemini, hey, I'm not going to say their names. I'm like, hey, Gemini, what's up with such? Well, I'm doing my thing. That many people? That many people. Now, again, it wasn't smooth, but the Gemini has some game. I said, wow. But I never tried to go after the Gemini anymore because the mom broke us up like 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I'm trying to speak to the Gemini, me and the Gemini, right? The one that I liked, that I told you, the daughter, we finna kiss. Mom bust right in the room, bam. So I gave up after a while. I'm doing my own thing. Started hanging out with the uncle, Started hanging out with the uncle, which is the mom's brother. Started hanging out with other people more because I'm like, look, I'm never gonna get what it is that I want. It is what it is. Then there was a point in time where the Gemini started to become a little bit more manipulative when it came to me. Now they start asking me for stuff, and I'm like, listen, I like you and all of that, but I don't want you to use me and treat me like trash, So anyway, there was a little bit of friction now between myself and all the people who I'm hanging out with now. I told you, a lot of people like to spread my name in disarray, talk trash, stuff that people don't even know, just all types of. That's why it is I don't hang out with individuals, because everybody is always thinking I'm up to something, I'm this, that, and the third, but nobody actually has the proof. Nobody could say, here's what it is that you done wrong, and the reason why this is happening is because this and this is fair for us to do. No, it's always I'm treated this particular way, and no matter how unjustifiable it is that anyone says to me, I need to be okay with that. I gotta deal with the disrespect. Okay. So started to have herself a girlfriend herself. The girlfriend and the Gemini started having little problems. They start going back and forth, coming to blows. That's them. I'm over here, everybody looking at it. It became something, unreal. Anyway, that's the stupidity of it all, because the mom didn't want me to hang out with the Gemini like that. But then the mom has another young lady hanging out with the Gemini like that in a relationship, supposedly. Living there in the house, or I should say the apartment, because the Cancer crab doesn't have anywhere to go. And wait till I get on the Cancer crab and why it is that I know all the games that Cancer crabs can play. Because I got a long history with the Cancer crab too. But as you can see, I'm kind of going down memory lane. But that's the stupidity of it all. The fact that the Gemini didn't want me hanging out with the daughter. The mama didn't want me hanging out with the daughter, which is also a Gemini, right? And the daughter's sister is a Sagittarius. So literally grew up with all these zodiac signs watching it. Okay. And the Gemini trying to find all types of, I'm talking about the daughter now that I'm in the same age group with. The Gemini now trying to find all types of ways to disqualify me from actually being with her, right? Because that type of stuff would come up occasionally. I even met the Gemini's stepfather. Now, unfortunately, the birth father ain't around because the birth father, according to the Gemini, is a piece of trash. Didn't want to be in the life. And I'm sorry for that. But met the stepfather. The stepfather is actually diesel dude, tall, 6 foot something. Tattoos, not a whole lot, but some tattoos. Biker, you understand what I'm saying? Likes sports motorcycles, biker in a motorcycle. Not even gonna say, not even gonna name names. I'm not even gonna give you super, you know, reliable descriptions. I'm just gonna keep it as vague as I possibly can, just to give you an idea of why I'm saying this. So in other words, so in essence, right, stepfather doesn't like anybody. Likes me though. Talk to the stepfather about science, being able to get along with the stepfather, right? By the end of the night, the stepfather don't know me. By the end of the night, the stepfather's like, yo, we dapping it up. The stepfather, hey, yo, I rock with you. We gonna link up because we both have an interest in motorcycles. All of that. And eventually, when some stuff goes down, the Gemini, the one who I'm in the same age bracket with, made a decision for herself that the mother's own living arrangement between the mother's boyfriend, the mother's decision making, wasn't safest for her. So she ended up going to her stepdad's house and staying there now. And long story short, she became a video vixen. Now, at the time when I was hanging out with her, trying to get her to rock with me, she was telling me no. She was actually trying out to be a model. She was actually taking pictures to be a model. She was beautiful. She was trying out to take pictures to be a model. She was getting certain models. She was getting certain pictures taken to be a model, you know. So she tried. So essentially, she eventually went the route of being a video vixen, being in a couple of Puerto Ricans, you know, because you know how the Puerto Rican culture, they have like certain stars, certain rap stars. They rap in Spanish language a lot of the time. I think they call it reggaeton or something like this. But anyway, long story, whatever they call it, right? Which, all with all due respect, right? It's just that I'm not a fluent Spanish speaker, but I know enough to get by. But so in essence, so the music videos that the Gemini was in, and then from there started to become an Instagram model. You already know what that means. And it's so it's so funny because this is kind of the reason why it is that I don't date in that regard, especially not in the US. If I am gonna date, it'll probably be outside of the US, because it's, you know, it's the idea of, it's the stench of, I remember, you know, people always want to talk this nonsense about it. This is why it is I say that I'm an outcast. And this is why it is I say that I'm not the guy. Because I'm not. I'll take a sip to that. I'm not the guy. Because everybody is so worried about what I'm going to do, right? Trying to squash my masculinity. Trying to put in check my masculinity. And all I'm really doing with my masculinity is handling my business, taking care of my people, taking care of myself, and trying to see how far I can go with this thing as far as life is concerned. But everybody is so wondering about what I'm doing as a person, and trying to constantly box in and check my masculinity, because again, it's the idea that her uncle, which is my supposed friend at the time, didn't have a problem with me talking to didn't have a problem with me talking to her, but at the same time, it's so weird because the mom did, but yet at the same time, meanwhile, you know, I'm paying the bills on some of these grown folks' phone bill. 14, 15, 16 at the time. Buying food for them and stuff. I told y'all about this before. Making sure that they eat. And hanging out with them. And they still have the mentality of, well, I'm not good enough. You not good enough. You dog people out. And they hanging out with me. Actually seeing me and actually seeing how things, that's my cat, but actually seeing how I actually am, right? Completely dispelling the narrative. This is why there's a lot of mothers that keep daughters single, because it's the narrative of factually, they're actually seeing me in action. I have 3 jobs at the time, keeping my head in these books, but no, I'm not good enough for your daughter, right? No criminal record. I still don't have a criminal record still to this day, but I'm not good enough for your daughter. But yet you'll let your daughter, excuse me, be with somebody who is putting their hands on your daughter. And then not only that too, but you bring in your daughter around, right? You with somebody who just been to jail for 10 years straight and got out, and now is a potential confidential informant, putting everybody in danger in the apartment. But then at the same time, the new boyfriend is a parasite, because the new boyfriend making everybody feel uncomfortable, meaning the Gemini and the Gemini sister. Got them scared to even so much as open the refrigerator door. You wanna know what's the cold part about the whole thing? Since everybody wanna talk about I'm the devil, you wanna know what's the cold part about the whole thing? The idea that at the time when the Gemini was still hanging out with us, when the Gemini would get twisted, because the Gemini live fast like that. When a Gemini would get twisted, get drunk and stuff like this, guess what happened? Not even her own uncle would make sure that she good in that way. I would. Make sure that she don't do anything stupid and find her way around doing anything stupid, and make sure that she making it home okay, along with her uncle. But her uncle would be relaxed, because her uncle knew I got her. That's why the uncle wasn't tripping. Another thing too, the guy who would later come out and be a potential, I don't know for sure, but would be a potential confidential informant, or running around essentially telling everybody's business. I don't know about the paperwork and all that, but essentially running around telling everybody's business. He made them so scared to open the refrigerator door, getting all up in their face like he finna do something to them. Both the Gemini and the Sagittarius. The Sagittarius was the Gemini's sister. You know who's scared off? The person who did a dime straight, 10 years in jail, face tattoo, acting like he gangster? Me. Whenever it is that I would show up, this goofy individual would leave the house, would leave the apartment. And to top it all off, it goes to show you the stupidity of how everything works, and I got to brush my shoulder off, because I have nothing to be ashamed of. And screw all the people who want to run around the internet trying to throw dirt on my good name that you can't knock. It's 100. You know what happened? The Gemini, whenever this I come around, I remember there was one time I heard the Gemini say, in the kitchen, as the Gemini was making something for us to eat. The Gemini was hungry. And I said, yeah, go ahead and make something to eat. You know what the Gemini said? Where after the person who did a dime straight in prison did, after he left, the Gemini said, thank you, Kareem is here. So that's my story of the how I was in love with a Gemini, and kind of how society is real stupid. This is the situation, people. They squander the names of the people who really put in work. They squander the names of the people who really putting in real serious work, the people who are really righteous. They squander those people's names. They talk crazy about those people. They throw dirt at those people. They throw their stones at those people. They try to completely humiliate those people to hold up goofy individuals that do nothing but cause mischief and hold back the progress of others.